Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Focus Friday. Today we're going to be talking about shop safety. Um, Got to move some things around here. And we're going to go ahead and just get started. My name is Dominique. I'm one of the safety directors with Farm Bureau. Um, and If you haven't been here before, I have attached a checklist of a resource for you guys in the chat. I'm going to do it one more time because sometimes if people come after I've attached it, it doesn't show up for them. And then if you have any questions or anything, you can use the Q&A feature. These are short little training videos, so this one actually won't last too long. Go back to the main screen. Quick overview of what we're talking about, and then the attachment is a checklist, so hopefully something you can bring back to your workplace and use in a practical way, and that will last a lot longer than 20 minutes. All right. So first of all, let's talk about some of the potential hazards in shops. Pretty much, I mean, any farm I've been on, they've got a shop of some sort. And there's a lot of potential hazards that can be identified, and also not just hazards, but violations. This is a good place for an LNI inspector to show up and find some easy violations because there's potential for serious hazards here. Um, we've got chemicals, machinery, equipment, compressed gas and compressed air, hazardous um um lifting. Um, so we just want to be aware of anything that employees might be exposed to. So just as you're walking into the shop, obviously common sense, is there anything here that's going to hurt your employees or maybe cause an illness? So something like hazardous noise or chemical exposure. Chemical exposures, first of all, I just want to make sure everybody can see everything okay. Emily, if you're on, do you mind just letting me know if you can see the screen okay? Because I've got some other things up too now.
Hey,
Maybe not.
that's fine. I'm sorry. It took me a minute to unmute.
Oh, that's good. That's
That's
okay.
good.
Thank you. I added our chat and everything on top of the screen, so I just want to make sure that you guys aren't seeing that over the PowerPoint.
No.
Okay, so chemical hazards. Chemicals in the shop sometimes get overlooked, especially on farms because they're not pesticides, which are highly regulated. But chemicals in shops are can cause just as much damage. So things like this picture here, I mean, are we looking at a fresh pressed gallon of apple juice here, or what is in here? Not knowing what the chemicals are that you're working with. Um, as part of your chemical hazard communication program, you should have a process for labeling chemicals even after secondary containment if you're pouring it into another. I mean, if this hopefully this is an approved container for whatever this product is. Um, and that's fine. But it does need a label on it so we know what it is. It's not fresh pressed apple juice. Um, as you're looking at chemical hazards, one of the things I like to do when I'm helping employers identify or initiate a chemical hazard communication program is make a spreadsheet and list what the chemical is, what the product is, maybe have a list of a link to their safety data sheets, a list to whatever the product label is, and then what personal protective equipment is required. Is it an inhalation hazard? Is it an ingestion hazard? And just like make check marks in it so it's a easy reference for employees that are going to be using these products. Some chemicals tend to react with other chemicals, sometimes even water. So it's important to know if there's a product that shouldn't be, if it catches on fire, what fire extinguisher you should be using. Acids and bases should be separated and shouldn't be stored near each other. Um, Labeling, I mean, just it's really important to make sure that you have things labeled properly. I've been in like, I mean, transmission oil or radiator fluid. I mean, that stuff looks can be really mistaken pretty easily. So, having things labeled properly. Um, if you have anything with this um, picture on the bottom, the bucket that says corrosive on it, if you have anything that is corrosive, severely irritating, or toxic, you are required to have an emergency eye wash station. Employees are required to wear chemical splash goggles and gloves. If there's potential for them to get that on their body, you may need a shower as well. Oh, some little things there. And then tools, these are great places for hazards to be hiding, these kind of tools that you're gonna find in a shop. Grinders, that's one of the first places an L&I inspector can go look and find a easy serious violation. Your grinders, there's 2 guards on them. Bench grinders I'm speaking of specifically right now, but, you've got your top guard and your bottom guard. Your top guard needs to be within a 1/4 inch of the wheel, and the bottom guard needs to be within 1/8 of an inch. Um, if as the wheel goes down, those should be adjusted down. Um, if, you have, an angle grinder or anything like that, um that guards need to be on those. If it doesn't fit in the work that is being done, it might not be the right tool for the job. So make sure that employees have the right tools for the jobs. There is an exception if the work does the guarding for you, then you aren't required to have one. But that is a very slim. There's not a lot of room for that exemption. So I just say just find a different guard if you can. Lathes and milling machines, make sure you have proper training, use eye protection, ensure that the chuck is guarded if the teeth are extended past the chuck. Ensure that employees aren't standing near the end of the stalk. Proper training and use for chop and band saws, and then guard them, guard them, guard them. So make sure if you're using like a table saw or something like that, only the length of the saw that is needed should be unguarded. If you have a drill press, um, make sure that it's mounted so that it's not gonna it prevents walking, which a lot of times, people are like, I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to leave this here. Secure it to the ground, whether you're going to leave it there or not. If it needs to be moved, you can take the bolts out. And then repairing of PTO guards before operating. I mean, obviously, PTO guards, they tend to get damaged pretty easily, pretty regularly. So just train your employees to inspect for these before any damage before they use any PTO driven equipment. And if there is any damage, make sure that they know what to do, which means get them guarded before they go they are put in service. So obviously, can you identify what the hazard is here? We've got a table saw that, yeah, it's not guarded. Here, we've got a PTO shaft that's unguarded. These are some common things, obviously. Compressed air, compressed gases, period. So you've got 2 different things here. You've got compressed gases for welding, which are properly stored. They're secured to the wall. Oxygen, if you're using oxygen, it needs to be stored separately from any combustible material. You want to prevent these from being knocked over by accident. And then compressed air, if you're using it for cleaning, it needs to be less than 30 psi, which is kind of hard to do when you're trying to use it for cleaning. So they've provided some options in the case that you need it more than 30 psi, and that means that it needs to have like chuck guarding or something that if it is up against your skin, the air is going to release out rather than into your skin. So a lot of times the handles, the nozzles that you're using for compressed air will have an OSHA approved symbol, emblem, something on the nozzle saying that it's OSHA approved, so you know that it is. Um, just make sure that you have that. That's something really common that I find in shops that are potential hazards. And then what is delivering the compressed air from the compressor? It can't be just PVC pipe because that can shatter and explode and can be hazardous. So it has to be something that is actually dedicated to compressed air. Lots of other considerations in shops, right? We've got floor openings I've seen. Make sure that you guard all open sides. If it's something that is for a ladder coming down, make sure that it has like a self-shutting door so people aren't falling through. If employees are using ladders, make sure that they're correct type, the correct rating, make sure they fit whoever is going to be using it and whatever the equipment they're using it for. So make sure that it's rated for the whole load. Confined spaces, things like pits, anything like that. The first thing you want to do with a confined space is identify anything that meets this definition. There's three things that it has to meet to be a confined space. Big enough to enter, not intended for human occupancy, and limited access and egress. Go through your entire work site and see if you have anything that meets those definitions. Write it down. And then if you do, once you write all those down, go through and identify, do any of these have additional hazards, any physical hazards, atmospheric hazards, um, entrapment hazards, drowning hazards, things like that. If they do, those are considered permit required confined spaces. We're going to have another training that is dedicated to that because that does get much more complicated. But for the meantime, make sure that you've got them all identified and in your accident prevention program. Have it communicated to employees. No employees are allowed to enter in the meantime. Hazardous noise is anything above 85 decibels for a time weighted average of 8 hours. That means that it could be at, 85 decibels for the full 8 hours. If it's something at 90 decibels after 4 hours, that is going to put the employee over that hazardous noise for the average. If it's at 95 decibels after 2 hours, you're over the hazardous noise threshold at 100 decibels after 1 hour, they're over the hazardous noise threshold. Um, anything, the rule of thumb is anything that is makes it louder. If I'm standing an arm's width away from you and I feel like I need to raise my voice to speak to you, then you probably are in the hazardous noise range. Ask us to come out, ask your L&I consultant to come out and do a survey. You may need some additional programs in place if you are over that. But it is a requirement for employees or employers to do an exposure assessment to see if you have hazardous noise that your employees are exposed to. If they're doing something like if you know that it's 90 decibels, but they're only doing it for an hour, make sure you write that down in your accident prevention program. Maybe they do weed eating for an hour once every couple weeks. Um, that won't put them over the hazardous noise level, but you still want employees to be wearing personal protective equipment. You want them to wear earmuffs or earplugs during that time because, I mean, it's still loud, even if they're not over that threshold. Pesticides in shops, even though you might not be spraying pesticides at the shop, you might be cleaning out the equipment. If you are cleaning or maintaining the equipment that holds pesticides, you need to be trained as a handler. So just make sure anybody that's touching the equipment has the proper training. And then, of course, the last thing that I want to talk about on this slide is culture. Man, that's one of the best. It can be one of the best things, and it can be one of the worst things. It's hard to change people's culture, but if you can get your employees to report unsafe conditions before they become hazards, and then report accidents and illnesses um, as soon as possible. That's showing that you have built a culture of people that feel like they can come to you for these important things. More considerations, of course, we've got electrical, which again, I don't want to get into too much. I think we do have a training coming up on that as well, but make sure only employees that are authorized to do so are working on anything electrical. If you need lockout tagout, make sure that all employees, the affected and the authorized employees, know what lockout tagout is, when to use it, and how to use it. The affected employees just need to know what it is, not to touch the locks. Railings, walkway. We see a lot of. I feel like I see a lot of lofts, overhead storage in lofts. If employees are up there, make sure that there's proper fall protection, which is a railing. If they're going to be using it for storage, it needs to be rated for storage for so many pounds per square feet or however you want it to be rated. There needs to be some posting showing what that storage is rated for. Housekeeping, this might not be something that is typically regulated, but it may cause some of the most expensive and long claims because you have slips, trips, and falls that are expensive claims. They can be expensive claims because they're musculoskeletal diseases which take a long time to heal. Same with proper lifting. Make sure employees understand proper lifting. Flammable liquids, and use of storage, just make like I was saying before, if you kinda have an idea of what products should be stored by each other or should not be stored by each other, probably more importantly, it will help for employees storing flammable liquids and anything like that. And then make sure employees are wearing proper personal protective equipment and proper clothing. So if you need non-slip shoes, make sure that employees are not coming in tennis shoes like this. Um, and uh, this is talking about proper lifting again. Um, if you there's two things that I mean are simple to do when you were talking about proper lifting. There's a big equation that goes into lifting, but some of the things are frequency, duration, and the weight. Another thing is coupling, which this box doesn't have a coupling factor on it. But if you can reduce the weight, you reduce that equation. If you reduce the frequency or the duration, you reduce that equation. So sometimes people will reduce the weight and they're taking more frequent trips, and that's a better way to think about lifting. Or they increase the weight and then they have a forklift do it, mechanical equipment do it. So something to think about. Um, Make sure that employees in the shop are getting they're doing, in agriculture, you're required to do a monthly, walkthrough inspection. Make sure the shop is included in that. Make sure shop employees are included in your safety meetings. Um, and then I feel like a lot of times when I'm talking about shops, I try to prioritize what if I identify hazards, what's the first thing to work on. And that's sometimes helpful for people so they don't get so overwhelmed if there's a lot of, adjustments to make in a shop area. And then programs and trainings. Some ideas for equipment is like simple operator training using operators manuals for standard operating procedures. Everybody that operates equipment should be familiar with the operator manual. Some machines require specialized certifications, so such as forklifts. You can do in-house certification, but all employees that use forklifts should be trained to do so before they use it and then evaluated at least 3 years, every 3 years afterwards. Lockout, tagout, blocking, make sure there's a zero energy state prior to use. And then also don't forget that gravity or springs under tension, things like that are also considered energy. So don't just say we don't need lockout, tagout, and think about all of the potential energy. And again, like always, this is a quick training, so I know I just blew through a lot. Hopefully, The checklist is helpful. If you did not get the checklist, just send me something in the Q&A. This is being recorded, and it will be up actually, it probably will not be up this afternoon. It will be up by Monday, though, on our new website. And the new website is wsfb.com/safety. At the bottom of that page is our resource library. And on the resource library, we've been hosting all of our Focus Fridays. There's a spot for all of the Focus Fridays. So this will be on there too. But in summary, make sure you have a plan. Um, I feel like shops are a good place to get overwhelmed, so have a plan. Don't let the hard work go to waste here. Revisit your plan often. Don't let it just be a I've walked through once kind of thing and I've noted everything that needs to be fixed, but it never gets fixed. Make the changes as needed and then ensure that it's effective. And then, yeah, I guess make the best out of a bad situation. So some shops it may take a while to get back into compliance or into a safe place, um, but it's a process, and that's what I always tell people when I'm out, when we're out doing inspection is this is not just a one-time thing. This is a relationship, and I hope that that's what you're doing out there with employees too, is building it so that it's an open communication all the way around. Okay, any questions? It looks like everybody was able to get the checklist. Okay, I've also been attaching attachments that I've had on the Focus Friday. I've also been attaching them to our website, so hopefully you can get those if you don't get them here. All right. Well, thank you. Have a great weekend. Next week, Gwen will be on, I can't remember the topic off the top of my head, but it's another claims topic next week. So we'll be back next week. And thank you. Have a good weekend.